You're welcome, Joseph Odu. Welcome to the class.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
You're welcome. Please remind your colleagues and your schoolmates to kindly join us.
It's okay, sir.
We're waiting for them. Drop a note for them.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir. I've done that, sir.
You're welcome to the class, Abito Stellangofan.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, you're welcome.
Sir. Thank you.
We will be starting in a jiffy. We are just waiting for others to join us. We'll be starting shortly. You are welcome to the class. Ohinadosu Stella. Yeah. I'm going to We will be starting in a minute's time. Even though we just have a Beatrice Telango Farm and Joseph Odu, we can continue to wait infinity for others to join us in the class. Maybe peradventure, they will join us later. We've been waiting with comments, and we're going to start straight away. Once again, thank you, distinguished student. You are welcome to SST 721, Social Standard and Emergency and Disaster, what we call humanitarian services. Today we'll be taking this course. You're welcome to the class. Please mute your speakers. Mute your speakers, just like the normal golden rule. If you want to speak, you want to comment, you want to ask any. Yeah. Mute your speakers. Mute your speakers. Mute your speakers, please. You're disturbing our class. If you want to speak, you raise up your hand. We allow you, we'll give you to comment, make contribution, ask your question. Today we'll be handling a very important topic, what we call the National Disaster Management Framework. And this is also examinable. By the time you study the whole of the National Disaster Management Framework, you know everything that contains and has to do with emergency, who is responsible in emergency situation, who carry a kind of which situation. We'll be looking at the definition of disaster management, just like we try to recover and try to remind ourselves, dealing with the process, planning, organizing, and implementing measures. And these measures are basically to mitigate, they are basically to reduce, they are basically to ameliorate, to prepare for, to respond to recover from the nature of be it man-made disaster or natural disaster situation. the aim or the impact of disasters on the community, the infrastructure, and the environment. We'll be looking at basically the swift, how we can be able to have what we call the swift recovery, resilience, how is it going to do? And then we'll be looking at how the National Disaster Management Framework, we say it's multi-jurisdictional, it is multi-sectoral, and multidisciplinary. What does that mean? That disaster management is every man's business, be it in the private sector, be it in the public sector, be it disaster situation, or what we call in NGOs, be it anywhere you find us in the private sector. And this involves, like we mentioned earlier, experts in engineering, involving mechanical engineers, involving what we call electrical engineers, civil engineers, in terms of construction. And when you come in terms of the internally displaced person, involving all the stakeholders. Just yesterday, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu, Senator, was in Benue State. What was she in Benue State? It was as a result of responding to issues of emergency and humanitarian affairs. Remember I told you in this class, remember we discussed here in the class that disaster management, emergency management and humanitarian affairs, they are on the first line of charge. And I've been telling you, and you saw what happened yesterday, that disaster and emergency is the only way that this is under presidency. The presidency is supposed to respond as so the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that he will protect the lives and property of the people and that of individuals, including their welfare. So she was here yesterday. And let me ask my friend, Doga Jaffet. Doga Jaffet, how much did the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria say he was going to give for those involved in emergency disasters and settlement? It's part of what we'll be discussing today. How much did he say he was going to give? Doga Jaffet. Hello, Abito Stella Ngofan. Who can answer that? Okay, now
I'm here, Stella.
Hello, sir.
Okay. I'm here. Stella is here.
Stella.
Hello, sir.
To give 1 billion naira.
1 billion naira. Okay, now Grace, you wanted to say something?
Billion.
1 billion. That is very correct. We'll give Abito Stella Ngofan
1 billion naira, sir.
1 billion naira. Very good.
I said 1 billion naira.
Oh, one bossa for Nai Grace again. We add one GRA on top, and the GRA will be both. We go ahead ahead. Then you can see that, just like I told you, in emergency and disaster, this is the only cause. This is the cause that involves urgent attention. It's the cause that involves a chunk of money within the shortest possible time. Remember, just only last week, I told you that International Office of Migration, you can just Google to confirm, released a sum of 864 million to Benue State. Yet it was against for what we call social standards in emergency and humanitarian services. So it's the kind of cause that people cash out very quick, those especially without sympathy, those without empathy, those that are basically the one to cause. So because of the involvement, because of the financial investment, all that is done, a lot of people will want emergency situation and disasters to continue. They will want it in such a way that they will continue to cash up. Remember also that the security votes for Benue State government coming from the Federation account has increased for the past 2 to 3 months. How do I know? Look at the Federation accounts and what is being published for Benue. As a consultant, as an expert in that area, we review across the country and you see that it's increased. And it's as a result of this that, from what you are seeing on this slide, we are saying disaster management is jurisdictional, it is multisectoral, it is multidisciplinary, including psychologists, sociologists, including even those in entertainment industry. We include all of that. Ahemin Nongo, please mute your speakers. Mute your speakers, Ahemin. Then we also talk about, it is a vital that the federal government, the local government, the civil society organization, what we call the CSO, and the private sector carry over roles respective law. And we'll be looking at everything. We let it bear for you to know who is responsible for all this money we are mentioning. How is the money supposed to be used? At the end of this class, as ambassador of social standards in emergency and humanitarian affairs, you'll be able to know all of this, and you know why it is so. So the class is a practical class. I keep repeating, and even for those who, where we attend seminars, those who doesn't want to get certificates, but they want their homes to be served, their communities, what we call at the same time, state at the federal level, join in what we call safety management and disasters. And that takes us to what we'll be taking next. The involvement of different actors, we call them stakeholders, we call them in disaster management, is for coordination and collaboration, coordination of mechanism, the disaster management framework, we are looking at it. And you may be asked, what is the National Disaster Management Framework? Remember, that is what we are focusing today. And remember that you may also be asked in exams, exam may come here from what we are doing here. For those that will be opportune to be in a class, oh, it will be easier for them. And I think when they get in for their exams on the 11th of August, as it's being selected or scheduled, it will be more of smiling and going home if they work hard indeed. Just like Tupac and Mary Shaku who said, what's gonna be, it's gonna be. But if I work hard indeed, it's gonna be cool. So disaster management framework, it provides a mechanism that serves as what we call a regulatory, a guidelines, and effectives in disaster management. What am I saying? I still repeat it. If you are asked what is disaster management framework, it is the policies, the guidelines, the procedures, the principles involving all stakeholders in the coordination, in the collaboration, and other agencies in the management of disaster. Into a layman, we will talk about this National Disaster Management Framework. It's a book. It's what we call the Constitution. It is the 10 Commandments that book contains everything about disaster management. And the National Disaster Management Framework, from what I'm giving you here, is just because it's at your own level. It's just a tip of the iceberg. I'm just being a kind of touch at the periphery. I'm not going deep. I'm just touching at the periphery. If you want to look to know more about the National Disaster Management Framework, please kindly Google and ask about, say, give me details about the National Disaster Management Framework. It's a heavy document, very big, and I think almost about 400 to 500 pages thereabout, containing everything about disaster management. We go further to say the National Disaster Management Framework, what is referred to as an NDF framework, it defines the measures, it looks at how flexible, how adaptable, how coordinated structures, how aligned key roles and responsibility of disaster management, specific authorities, and the best practices that are involved in management of emergency, in management of disasters, and explain the shift in disaster management beyond the response and recovery. What we are saying is that the National Disaster Management goes beyond just like somebody was stating, 9 grades just said, and I was telling her that we're coming to that. It is not just about rescue. It is not just about getting what to call people in the camp, providing shelter for them, and housing. No, the National Disaster Management goes further and deeper and inside, one dealing with what we call after recovery, after response. We go into rehabilitation. Apart from rehabilitation, which was part of what you heard yesterday, we go into what we call restructuring. Or part of the restructuring After restructuring, we go what we call reintegration. Reintegration, and if that's involved what international communities, involve the internationals, including the refugees, we deal with what is basically known as repatriation. Repatriation from other countries in terms of the refugees that are involved. So all you need to know practically, and some of the questions you may be asked under emergency, under disasters, under humanitarian affairs, and you don't know, and you want to be smart to the layman outside there, just tell the person, go and look at the National Disaster Management Framework. The framework contains all information, everything you need about disasters, and all your questions will be answered. And thus, the National Disaster Management Framework is going to answer the following question. Who has the responsibility of managing disasters? Over what? Who has the authority? If this person has the responsibility, who has the authority over what? Who is going to do this? Who is supposed to respond to disasters? In as much as it is collaboration, in as much as it's teamwork, in as much as it's both the private sector, including the NGOs, including the civil society organizations, including basically all that you need to do. Who is going to do what? Who is in charge of what? Who is in charge of emergency, disaster, at the local government, in your own community? Who should be in charge? And what is expected of your role? How are the jurisdictions going to work? Who is going to coordinate? We mentioned a lot of people, those involved. So who is supposed to do the other ones? How will they work together? All of that is in the National Disaster Management Framework. And then that takes us to what is the legal framework, the authority. As part of the National Disaster Framework, the legal authority is embedded in what we call the National Disaster Act, which came into existence in 2013 and 2014 under President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, where it was formed, robust, involving all the stakeholders. That being metamorphosis and came into being into the National Assembly. It will again reappear. And then in 2019, under President Muhammadu Buhari of the Blessed Memory, was signed into law. And that has become a law, passing through both the lower and then the upper chamber into a lot of public hearing involving a lot of that. So the legal authority, you are also covered. In this course, we will be dealing with you. We show you how, if certain situations happen within your state, within your local government, and some people that are supposed to carry out this responsibility, they didn't do anything, how you can use what here, the legal authority here, and sue them to court. And that will be done, the needful will be done. Remember, in issues of disaster management, we can do from the High Court, what we call the Appeal Court, to Supreme Court, out to the International Court, ECOWAS Court, and the International Court of Justice. Then, what is the resources base? How will the money, we talk about that, how will we get more money to carry out all of this? The National Disaster Management Framework is made up of how many focus area? And I go back to 9. Grace, how many focus area is the National Disaster Management Framework is made up, as it's seen on the slide here? You tell us how many focus area, and you read them for us. Nai, Grace, Joseph, over to you. If Nai is not there, or you having
Hello, sir. I didn't hear what you said. There was an incoming call. Thank you, sir.
It's our way of monitoring all of you. I'm making that you are disaster alert. That is why we make sure we engage all of you. The question is, the National Disaster Management Framework is made up of 8 focus areas. Oh, I've answered you already. Read the 8 focus areas we have here. We wanted to ask you how many focus areas. I went ahead and give you the answer. So if you read the 8 focus areas we have here. And this looks like an example. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, sir. I didn't hear what you said. The network was breaking. Like you were trying to ask me a question, but I
How many
didn't
focus
get
area is the National Disaster Management Framework? How many focus area do we have in the National Disaster Management Framework?
8.
Okay, Doug, I read them. Very good, Doug. I read the 8 focus area. Doug, Jafet?
Okay, 8
Okay, sir.
focus area.
Hello, sir.
8 focus area. 1.
Okay,
Institutional
go ahead,
capacity.
Okay. That is number 1.
2.
Number 2.
Coordination.
Coordination. Very good. Number 3.
Number 3. Disaster risk assessment.
Disaster risk assessment.
Number 4. Disaster risk reduction.
Good. Go ahead.
Number 5. Disaster prevention, preparedness, and mitigation.
Very good.
Number 6. Disaster response. Number 7, disaster recovery, and number 8, number 8, facilitators and enablers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Doug Jafet. If you have been asked any question and you don't get it clear, please answer in the chat box. You can just chat us in the chat box or you answer. We don't say we will begin to wait for you. That say you were too fast. No, we will not go back to your own pace, to operate at your own pace. We will operate with the standards, we will continue. So if you ask any question, you don't get it clear, or you want to answer, and your network or whatever is bad, the option is not for you to distort or keep arguing, or you keep disturbing the class. Just chat us in the chat box, and your answer will be taken. It is the same as speaking to us, and I will read it out for everybody here. We are following everything here and we're monitoring. And why do I emphasize on this page? The National Disaster Management made up of 8 focus areas. Why I'm emphasizing is everything that contains disasters, that we need about disasters in Nigeria is here, is among these 8 focus areas. And just like I say in emergency and humanitarian services, in social standard, we know they hide anything, no. We know they hide. We just are point blank. And it looks as if this will be an exam question. It could be that we may be asked to enumerate the 8 focus areas. Sometimes we may not even ask you the number. We may just say the focus areas in disaster management framework and briefly discuss on them. Because for you to study emergency, social standard, and humanitarian affairs, and don't have anything to do with this 8 focus area, it's going to be, it will be somehow, and it will be as if you have not attended this. So we should know this, know peace, and take note of it. Before we say, no, we were not total, we were not, we didn't see, you didn't mention it. Oh, so we will talk about that. Let's look at the 8 focus area. Section 1 of the 8 focus area has to do with the institutional capacity, which focuses on the establishment. It focuses on the necessary institution, the arrangement for implementing, for management of disasters within the state, within the federal, and within the local government level. Most time, when we talk of management of disasters, a lot of people feel that, it is only at the federal level. It is also only what we call, basically, in towns or metropolis. And those in the rural communities, they don't have anything to do with it. No, the institutional capacity deal with all the institutions, including the academia, including those in research, including all that we need to do and collaborate. The 8 focus area that we begin to see. Yes, we saw your answer, Patricia Akbusu. You answer in the chat box, and that was very correct. And that is the kind of things we expect that you do. It's still the same thing. You mentioned the basic areas and all of that. But more robustly, it's what we have here, encompassing the risk. So that's the way to respond. Once you don't get, once your network is bad, once we cannot hear you, we will do is that we record everything, and then that could be in the chat box, and everybody's there with us. We've been into this game for some time, so we know how to go with it, and that's how it's being done. In the arrangement of implementing the management within the federal, including the academia, including the research centers, including other basic, all the institutions that has to do humanitarian affairs and all of that, that has capacity happening under section 1. The section 2, this with the coordination, which is the National Disaster Management Framework, a kind of strategic, a kind of operational coordination among stakeholders. The type cover what we call the horizontal and what we call the vertical coordination mechanism. The vertical coordination mechanism and the horizontal mechanism. The operation defines the field, the level of coordination that is required in disaster management, and what is actually supposed to have done. All you do that comes under coordination. Then you talk about disaster risk and assessment. We keep speaking about this situation. We've been mentioning that, it addresses the need for assessment, it addresses the need for monitoring, it addresses the need for vulnerability, it addresses what we call coping capacity, or what we call adaptation, at the same time also referred to as adjustability. It has to do with the set of priority, the priority for risk reduction, and the effectiveness of all the stakeholders, including you and me, including your small in the house, in disaster management, in emergency, and humanitarian affairs. As an ambassador, you are expected to teach even your kids. You are expected to even put them alert to be able to assess and be able to be on alert. When you get back to get to car, or you get into them, they say, please, put seatbelt. So uncle will knock you, will beat you up. You will don't, if you don't put your seatbelt, train them in a such a way that you go. You're not doing any of this. You're not being wicked to them. You are just serving them. Some of these tips we insist on, and we insist on issues should be done accordingly. It's to help. Just within the twinkle of an eye, anything can happen. They could be able to be served in a situation. And then those involve the vulnerability. How do they cope with all of that is done, disaster risk assessment, involving them using what we call survey and digital, including all of Kobo Collect. You get the details of that by the time you interact with them. Section 4, part of the focus, has to do with disaster reduction. And this is in terms of planning, in terms of implementation, in terms of disaster reduction, in form of what we call development-oriented approach, in terms of the plans, in terms of the programs, in terms of the project that will talk about disaster risk. And remember we say this is in consonance, this is in collaboration with the United Nations Office of Disaster Risk and Reduction, UNDDR, DRR, and then from the federal government, ranging into what we call NEMA, to the state government, SEMA, going into what we call basically the local government management authority or committee. That's with all the programs. The section 5, we did much of it yesterday and the other day on Monday, doing with disaster preparedness, prevention, and mitigation. Another thing you have noticed in emergency and humanitarian services is a lot of things look alike. Yes, it is done purposely. It's a kind of reminder. We keep reminding anytime for you to be on alert. It is the reason why the same car you enter, you put seatbelt. By the next 5 minutes where you remove the seatbelt and you put it back, it's reminding you that you need to put it back. So in disaster management, in emergency management, and humanitarian services, all of this is put into cognizance, is put in such a way that it must be done, everything, including the impacts, and then we'll talk about the infrastructure, the economic occurrence of disaster event, and then the reduction of impact, what is term mitigation, and what we mentioned yesterday, and we discussed about it, how they occur. Then, when you move to disaster response, it focuses on the requirement, It is focusing on the integrated, the coordinated policy in what we call address your rapid and effective disaster management. You handle all of that. And remember, we say disasters and emergency, they are used pari passu, depending on the intensity, depending on the gravity, and depending on the approach, the level which that have done. So anytime we talk about emergency or disasters, they are interwoven, they are CMS twins, and can be used interchangeably, both in academia, in the research. But for you as expert, you as an ambassador, you know the difference within yourselves. Then we look at what we call disaster recovery, or what we refer to as Section 7, one of the 8 out of the 8 focus area. It dwells on the strategies required for bringing back disasters of affected areas. This now time around, it is time that the recovery process, how to bring our great student, powerful people like Dene Amos. How do you bring people of Yelewata back, the victim to normalcy? That is where we go through what is known as rehabilitation and reintegration. And at this level, I will ask my friend Denny Amos. Denny Amos, as part of this course, as part of practicum, the course asks us to interact with people who are affected in disaster management. And your view here, take it that you are talking to also Institute of Procurement and Environmental and Social Standards, including reports of the World Bank, and that could be put into consideration that you help a lot. So the question goes this way: Denny Amos, or any other person from there after Denny Amos can answer. What is required in bringing back those people affected by emergency, victim to normalcy, through rehabilitation and through reintegration? Over to you, my friend Denny Amos.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, sir. First of all, the insecurity, so the security situation must be brought to normalcy, because in Yelota precisely, there is still attacks even after the genocide one that happened that took a lot of lives. So security must be put in place. That's the first thing. Secondly, some properties were destroyed. Relief materials should be given to some of the people affected and need the houses built for them, or made the place calm and
situation and the nerves.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that is very true. Property destroyed. A lot of people lost their source of income, source of livelihood. Should you embark on durable solution, can be able to. Thank you very much, Denny Amos. Let's go to another person on how to restore victims of normalcy through rehabilitation. And let me go to Bashi. My friend Bashi Lawan Wunti. Bashi, how do we restore normalcy to people that are affected to rehabilitation and reintegration? This course is practical. Bashi.
Hello. Hello. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Bashi.
Sir, I want to hear the question again.
How do we restore normalcy to victims of people affected by emergency and disaster through rehabilitation and reintegration, as you are seeing on this very slide here?
Okay. Sir, I did not see the place on the slide.
If you look at the slide, section 7. Did you look at section 7 on the slide?
Yes, sir. I saw it, sir. I saw it, sir.
Section 7 for us.
Okay. Dwell on strategies required for bringing back disaster-affected area and victims to normalcy through rehabilitation and reintegration.
Very good. How do we do that to people that are affected by emergency and disaster? Elizabeth, to help
Pardon?
you. Okay,
sir,
let's Elizabeth Obonga help you. Elizabeth Obonga help you. We just want to remind you that when you are not in the class with you, when I'm sitting here, I know. So I normally bring you to order. My friend Bashi, once he was busy, so I needed to tell him to come back to the class. Elizabeth,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Sir, I
Good
want to
morning.
talk about the psychosocial supports. Like some of them have traumatized. If I'm one among those people, it will be difficult for me to go back to that village because the trauma, even as I'm not affected, the trauma is still in me. So they need to provide a counseling session for those that are affected, especially those that are already here in the IDP. They need to go through some counseling processes and trauma healing programs to help them recover emotionally before they can go back to their ancestral homes. And like I said, using myself as an example, if I am among the victims, sir, it will be very difficult for me to go back to that village. And as Dende has spoken, they have to provide security. But in this aspect, I want to talk about psychosocial support, which is emotional support for them to recover from the trauma and all that have happened in the community, sir.
Thank you very much for that robust contribution. We thank you for making that robust contribution, and we appreciate you. And that is actually what we have done is in order. Now let me go to Doga. Doga Japheth, assuming you are the Reverend Gentleman, His Excellency, this time around, the Governor of SST 721 for this, His Excellency Japheth Doga, and you are to return the people back to their ancestral home. How are you going to return the victim to normalcy through rehabilitation and reintegration? Japheth Doga. Japheth Doga, are you there? Okay, we move to Abito.
Hello,
Abito,
sir.
Okay, Japheth, you are there?
Yes, sir. My
Okay, go
network
ahead and
was
make your
shaking.
contribution.
I didn't get the question clear, sir.
Assuming you are the governor of Benue State,
Sir.
You are the Reverend Gentleman.
Hello, sir.
You are the Reverend Dr. Hyacinth Memalia of Benue State.
Okay.
What are you going to do
Yes.
to bring victims to normalcy through rehabilitation and reintegration? This is part of this course. It is assumed that all of you that are into this class, you are ambassadors, you can be chairman of local government, you can be governor, you can be president. So you should know what to do. So you as the governor, what are you expected to do here? Or what will you do?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, class.
Good morning, Your Excellency, sir.
First and foremost, is to swiftly direct the attention of the agency that is responsible for immediate evacuation of the affected persons.
Okay.
And a place of habitation will be cleared for them. First, you like the situation. Let me bring the situation in Yelwata, the recent happening.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. When you say you must look for a convenient place before you move to Yerwata, the incident may be a ravaging incident that will still be claiming the victims, claiming the lives of people and properties there. So swiftly, the security agencies are to be alerted to take charge of that place. Why vehicular properties, vehicles are provided to evacuate those persons. First is lives, and then followed, if possibly, their properties. You move them to a convenient place.
My friend, let me ask you this one. So tell us, what are the basic things of life according to Abraham Maslow?
It's shelter and food.
Okay, food, shelter, and what?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, food, shelter, and what? And clothing.
It's clothing. It's okay, sir. Yes.
Very good.
So,
okay. Yeah, go
you
ahead.
first move them to a safer, and when you move them to a safer place, you stabilize them. Probably, yeah, discussing. Some persons, maybe the even me, they are here to even take it. The image, the incident occurred. If you leave them hungry, some person may be suffering from ulcer. So immediately you introduce, you give them food. And in the course of pulling these people out in Sudan, some people may be in their sleeping room and they may run out of the incident scene with just nothing but themselves bare. So you provide clothing and then having and taking care of these basic needs, medical attention to stabilize some persons emotionally, because some person may be suffering, they have psychological issues, and situation of this kind may trigger the incident. So those are the things I think are basic in an emergent situation. As these issues are taken care of, then other needs of the persons inhabiting the IDP camp to make it conducive, fumigate, make it reptiles free, insects free, to make sure that they are not there. Those who came there healthy, leave that place healthy. It's not a situation you take people out of a disaster zone where they are healthy and they will go there. They are malnourished, they are infested because malaria or mosquito bites will give them malaria. So you make the place habitable for them and continue to give them attention. Those are the ways I think, as if I act as governor of the state or chairman of a council, that there are an IDP camp is supposed to be designated, or an incident happen and I'm to evacuate people. Those are the things I'll do primarily to say that they are good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Doga Japheth. Look at what Elizabeth Bonga put in his own chart: provide immediate safety and protection, emotional and psychological support, restore dignity. I think that's what you want to run. Empowerment, provide skills and educational support. Please look at that answer. It's very robust, just like you two you have been given. Now, to add to some of this, all you have mentioned, ranging from Dandy Amos, from Naif, from yourself, and then other contribution, including Bonga, you first of all provide security and protection to give what's called what is his name again? That is it the video? That's assurances. Assurance. There must be that kind of assurance. I don't know who know how to sing that song again. Whether Japheth Doga knows how to sing. You must be able to provide safety and security, which is number one, and prioritize, just like we stated. And then when you do that, like we're talking about, remediation, cleansing, then you talk about fumigation of the place, in conjunction with the stakeholders that are involved, restoring normalcy. By the time you restore normalcy, the people are not ready. You seek their opinion. Seek their opinion, get into counseling, social support, be with them, what we close to pacify them, engage them, know that, oh, morale is a bit becoming low, high from low. After that, they be engaged. Do you actually want to come back? That is from where they are engaged and involved in decision making on how things should be. Before you go into issues like properties, issues like empowerment, issues like what do you actually want us to do when you talk about, say, even providing skills, education, economic support, empowerment, and all of that. They should be involved. They will be the one to tell you how it should be done and how we'll be able to cope, and not just to give them fish, but to be able to teach them how to catch fish and be able to wear off all the trauma the psychological life affected and all of that. By the time you do all of that, you can go into issues like reintegration and rehabilitation. Even if you're building our houses, some may prefer this and this, water, all the bases, including the sanitation and health of that environment. So we are assuming that, oh, the ambassadors of this very course, social standard, emergency, and humanitarian services, by now you should be able to know the processes, the basis of what the social standard, the standard that have been done. For the people that lost their job, lost their income in the processes, most of them is farming, all of that will be discussed. For those that have to do with their civil servants involved in teaching, all of that, where infrastructures are developed, the involved decision making involve all of that, including the basic, what we call the critical stakeholders. The stakeholders, when I'm teaching the stakeholders engagement, remember, we told you that they are into levels, the middle, the high, and the low. Engage all of them, but most importantly, the critical stakeholders I'm able to know. Then one of the 8 focus area is the facilitators and enablers. They provide condition for integrating the roles of emergency management agencies, information management and communication, monitoring and evaluation. You still be monitoring, you still be evaluating. You don't just settle them and go back and say you have settled. No, the social standard and the focus area is that the minimum you can do is that you do that through 1, 2 to 3 to 4 years to make sure by the time it gets almost like 5 years, we kind of follow up through what we call the National Emergency Management Agency and SEMA, which will be very soon be hammering on it. We'll be teaching you how it is being done. And by the time you do that, including education and training and requisite finally, most of the time it has to be with training and capacity building. It has to be with awareness. It has to be with building confidence. And then founding arrangement of the disaster management. That takes us to what we call the next section and what we call NEMA. And what is NEMA? The Institutional Capacity of Disaster Management. And we are starting with NEMA. That NEMA is part of the strong, the coordinating, and the overall emergency. There shall be National Emergency Management Agency. That is the law. That is the act that established emergency and what we call NEMA at the federal level. And then what we call the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, that is at the state level. And then the local government, what we call LEMA. Remember in Nigeria, I told you that about 4 states, they don't call it LEMA. It depends on their constitution at the state level, but the functions are the same. They call it LMEMC, Local Government Emergency Management Committee. And in about 2 or 3 states, it is called Local Government Emergency Management Authority, including that of Delta State. It's just all of that. You need to know as at your own level, you're trying to do emergency and social standard, what is happening in your country. Then you try to reduce the likelihood of severity of that, and that is part of what? How all that we've been discussing, all that we've been mentioning, there is what we call the legislation for disaster management structure in Nigeria. I may just decide, I say write short note on the disaster management structures in Nigeria, the legislation for disaster management framework in Nigeria. And what is you expected to tell us? Or what do you know how to do? What is what you know you need to do about legislation for disaster management or emergency management structure in Nigeria? It has to do with what we call the backup by an enabling law at the level of the government. The enabling laws that, among other things, they specify the role, the responsibilities, the membership of the leadership of the tenure, and including the tenure of the people that are involved in managing of these disasters. All of that has to do with the legislation. And at the federal level, this legislation is handled by what we call the National Assembly. And then at the state level is the State House of Assembly that determine how that laws will go. And that goes to a lot of determination. When you are sending people to State House of Assembly, you are sending people to what we call the National Assembly. It should be people who are vast, who are versatile, including issues of emergency and disasters and humanitarian affairs. By then, if they are able to know that, they'll be able to, a lot of issues will have been solved. And you may not need to be where you will find yourself today with a lot of issues bothering. Now, this is the role of the federal government in disaster management. The law of the federal government in disaster management is handled by NEMA. And that NEMA is that they may decide to say they give me 10 functions of NEMA. But most of you, there are more than 20 that you don't know basically the roles of NEMA, their function. This is where we find ourselves today. And by the end of this lecture, you should be able to be singing it. The federal government, through the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, shall, by this policy, perform the foreign disaster management function. The formulate policies, all the policy, all the programs, all the regulatory activities relating to disasters and emergency management in Nigeria. In all, in what we are saying is that they are part of the formulation of the policy. They are the one that would consult us, to come up with the policy, including all the stakeholders, governing issues of emergency, governing issues of disasters, and they also coordinate the activities of other stakeholders in disaster management. When we say they coordinate the activities of other stakeholders in disasters management, Mr. Joseph Odu, how do NEMA coordinate the activities of stakeholders in management of emergency and disaster? Mr. Joseph Odu, how did NEMA coordinate the activities of other stakeholders in emergency and disaster management? Yeah, Florence Saluk. Florence Saluk, can you answer that? So Ruth Banan. Can you tell us how NEMA is able to coordinate the activities of other stakeholders in emergency and disaster management?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Banan.
NEMA can coordinate the activities of stakeholders in disaster management through activation of can you hear me, sir?
We're hearing you very well. So Ruth Banan.
They can activate a national response plan, a national response emergency
Sorry.
plan.
Just call my attention for something.
Yeah, just to remind you that you were not with us. Yeah,
hello, sir.
So go ahead. Yeah, so we can hear you very well.
By activating an emergency response plan.
Very good. Go ahead.
Then after that, this is done, they will have to outline the roles and responsibilities of the stakeholders and organizations, including the government agencies and NGOs.
Very good.
After that, they can establish emergency centers.
Okay.
That will
very good.
That will coordinate the work they'll be doing, especially sharing of information. Hello, sir.
Very good sharing of information. We are with you. We are getting you very clear.
Okay. After establishing communication, the means of communication and then allocating resources, they would regulate and hold regular meetings to meet and discuss issues on ground, and also use tools like reports, sharing situation reports to update every organization involved about on the level of crisis they are dealing with. They can also form groups that will provide working groups in terms of that will provide relief materials such as food security and shelter for the affected victims. Can you hear me, sir?
That is very well. That is very good. You're on track and you are very correct.
So that's my contribution, sir.
Thank you very much to Ruth Mana. That is a robust contribution. If I'm marking, and if I'm to give you marks on that, I'll give you 7/10. And I'll give you an A for that explanation. We may just decide to ask, some of these things we do is that our question can be practical, most of you. I may just decide to ask in your exams, the National Emergency Management coordinate the activities of stakeholders in disaster management. Discuss. And that could be your whole question. And you may need to tell me the nitty-gritties. All that involve, not just what my friend Joseph Odu told me in the establishing relationship or coordination meeting and just stop. No. You may need to explain to me vividly, just like Tombana has done, noting up the functions, noting on all of that. This is where we begin to get issues of emergency and disaster response. We need to know who takes care of that. Who is supposed to do this? How is it supposed to coordinate? How is that person involving the NGOs? Just like he was saying, to do this way, do this way, do this, do it practically like this. The class has is just like you know very well, it's practical. A lot of things that needs to be done. So that is how NEMA coordinates all of that, including SEMA, including what we call LEMA. They coordinate all of that, plans and programs for efficient and then response of disasters in the country, ensure they coordinate also and promote research activities relating disaster management in the country. For most of you that you'll be doing your internship, here we do internship for PGD program. Most of you will be with NEMA, most of you with SEMA, others with LEMA, others with NGOs, all these Christian Relief Service or Catholic Relief Service, others with what we call, all many of them that we started them yesterday. You will see how they coordinate all of this, how they work in collaboration, how if an NGO, if Odoga Jaffet has an NGO and wants to operate, how he needs to register with them, how he needs to know when it's coming, how he's going to operate, all of that will be done. And then that will also be, we'll look at basically how they coordinate. Another function of the federal government or NEMA is that what they do is that they ensure that, what we have in the rescue, just like Gwemo is mentioning, how do NEMA coordinate the activities? The interagency collaboration, that's good. Coordinating resources, mobilization, including incentives from the private sector. Yeah, that is correct, very correct. And then search and rescue exploration is what we're part of what we'll be looking. They coordinate including search and rescue operation, working in an agency, including the police force. We spoke about that, including the Air Force. NEMA will work with them, including the Naval. Sometimes an emergency may occur. It may be in Lagos, it may be in River Benue, it may be in Buruku or Kasinala, where a boat capsized. All of that has to be coordinated by NEMA in rescue and search. They look for local divers, what we call community engagement and collaborations with management of emergency. They coordinate all of this. They also embark on research. Most people don't know. Most people don't know. They think that it's only in academics that you need to do research. Another responsibility of NEMA is that NEMA works with the institution like university, polytechnics, colleges of education, including students. They embark on certain research. You do some certain research on how to manage disaster or each situation and come up with recommendation. They look at the findings, the conclusion, and the recommendation. And then they monitor the preparedness of organization of the agency, which contribute to disaster management. They collect data. A lot of data, if you need data or report or relevant agency now, if I asked you, what is the total number of IDP in Benue State? The total number of people that have been displaced in Benue State. Let me ask Nai Grace, or in Plateau State. Nai, what is the total number of people that are affected by disasters in Benue State, or the IDP, the internally displaced camp? And how many of them are male? How many of them are female? How many of them are children? Please tell me where and where, how can I get that?
Hello, sir. I know of that of Abuja.
Okay, you know that that's of Abuja?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, sir.
We have in Abuja?
Yes, sir. They are 100, and the last time that I was there, the figure I got, they are 125,000, sir.
125,000. That was when?
Yes, sir.
Because
That's last year.
I'm privy to Abuja reports. It covers Abuja, including places like Durumi, including bus going on all the IDPs in Abuja and all of that. Okay.
Even Kuje
Even
too.
Kuje, in going through even Gwagwarada, even Kuba, covering some aspects and then some suburb. When we did some other locality, like Kubasa and the rest of them. Okay. So, and if we are asked, what is the source of the information? Where did you get this information?
I actually got it from a particular organization that I was to work with. So they intend carrying out some services.
What is the name of the organization? We are teaching you something here, practical here.
Okay, Child Care
We
Needs.
want it to learn.
Child Care Needs.
Okay, Child Care Needs. Child Care Needs and is an NGO.
Yes, sir.
I heard about Child Care Needs, but it's an NGO that deals with most of covering such area. Now, if you want to get the official report, this information you got from was from the Child Care or from the NGO. The official report, distinguished students, if you want to get it, you go to NEMA or SEMA. This reports that 1,025 people. If you are writing project now, if you are writing issues now in Abuja now and you give me, or you give any of your lecturers, it will not be accepted. It will not be accepted because it's simply because we cannot be able to accept it, the report, except it's backed by the authorities. And the authorities involved is that must be by either National Emergency Management Agency or the National Bureau of Statistics.
Noted, sir.
Semi collaboration or LEMA that provide this information. Even though it's from the Child Care must be communities affected and government, and the government giving different figure, this one giving different figure. Overall, they automatically, they distinguish that coordinates all of this and handle all of this is NEMA. It's the only NEMA that can, SEMA or NEMA or LEMA. Otherwise, yeah, it's fine. What you have is the truth, but it will not be accepted. They are the Oga Pata Pata. So the Oga Pata Pata must be able to, they say you are a member of this house, okay? Say you are a member of SST 721. It's a student. And they say, what will happen is now you say we don't know him. This one is not my student. They say, why is it? You look at, they'll give you some reason why he's not student, why he cannot be able to partake in some certain things. So in as much as you're a student, you're part of it, certain procedure must be followed and some certain thing must be done. And NEMA, we're showing you that they collect this data, they report to a relevant agency, and they do what is also known as forecasting. We spoke about that yesterday, planning and field operation of disasters in management, where they carry out field operations and all of that. Then they also educate the public on disaster prevention and what we call measures. And part of what they are doing, NEMA, is also what the institution, including the Institute of Procurement, Environmental and Social Standards of the Joseph Sawuantaka University and other measures they can be able to do. They also coordinate and facilitate the provision of necessary resources for search and rescue. That was mentioned by Akbusu Ngwemo, that yes, and I agree with her, that they coordinate resources for search and rescue. And we say that, if it's in water, that has to be done. If it is on land, they have agents. NEMA has agents, some are volunteers everywhere. If there's any issue that happened in Nyanyang now, or you had that issue happens in places like Karu, and by the time you call Nai Grace Joseph as part of an ambassador, or you call Dr. Terran, so where is the issue? Where is the problem? So where do you have is the high level? You say, Wurukum. Okay, so don't worry. Give me a minute. You see somebody there. They have agents, they have number, or call this person. This person will resume. They work together in coordinating all of that. The work in agency. Meetings are being entered. You enter, you have the North Central, you have the Northwest, all of them. In the course of this class, when we go further on, we know why this is not too functional at the local government level and the other impediments that are causing a lot of, and support the activities of non-governmental organizations. Yes, that was also mentioned, and development partners engage in disaster management in the theory. That was stated by Akbusu as well. She stated part of that in the chat. She dropped there on the explanation. They mobilize financial, what we call the technical resources, the private sector. All these finances that they are talking about, all this all this one that they are talking about, what do you call from the International Office of Migration, NEMA will work at the state level. Their picking is there, and their picking is SEMA. It's SEMA that will work that, and that SEMA is under somebody. All of that is under the control of the governor. We will soon be telling you, members of that committee, the people that are in charge and how it's being done under normal security standards, under the normal social standard, what is supposed to be for the purpose of disaster management. They also collect emergency material and supply from international and non-governmental organizations. Sometimes when you want to distribute, you move to the camp, you want to give them, you bring a bag of clothes, you bring food, you test it, their procedure, they see that everything is done, they collect it, you just watch, and they have what we call camp managers at that level, at the state, at the local government, who have what is the headgear, their head boy, other statements and other stakeholders working in this distribution of people of the affected disasters. Then they also work closely with SEMA and LEMA. This is 13, assessing the monitoring necessary distribution of relief materials to the disaster survivor or the IDP. This is where the issue of the First Lady came in yesterday. This is where SEMA comes in and LEMA. The refugees, those affected by mass, what we call deportation and repatriation from other countries. I mentioned that area. As a result of the crisis, as a result of the disasters and the policy, they assist in the rehabilitation of survivors. The IDPs, the rehabilitation of those survivors, the IDPs, where necessary, those affected by deportation and repatriation, that is from other countries, including all of that, they make sure the crisis and foreign policy align with the foreign policy. They prepare the annual budget. If you see the budget of NEMA is also very fat. It's not LEPA. If you see the kind of budget they have for all of this, and you see, oh, this is how you should be. They process all of what we call release assistance. In other countries, there are some things that they're receiving, that they'll receive and everything will just go, what my friend called beaming. The beaming of the thing is that everything goes silent and nobody wants to know. Except, and some of you will know, except for you that will have the opportunity of studying what we call social standard in emergency and humanitarian services that you will know. And some things, when they do some certain things, we'll look at it and laugh. We know that some people are giving some credit to some certain individuals, or anyway, going in a collective effort. Some of us have also contributed in putting, and will enjoy you to do same. That may be determined by the federal government of Nigeria from time to time. NEMA or the federal government, at the same time, foster a strong working relationship with all the relevant and international agencies, including the United Nations, and then the Institution for the Reduction of Disasters, and all of that. Remember, what I'm giving you here is just even a summary. If you want to get details of that document, just Google www.NG National Disaster Management Framework document, and you see a robust document. You will read and read and read, and it is like an ababio. It's like a Bible that you will know everything about disaster. They facilitate the establishment of enabling legislation during public hearings. They are part of the public hearing, the activities of state emergency management agency, part of all that we'll be doing. And then you'll be talking about then other issues like what we call LEMA. Part of all we do in that kind of situation, they try to make sure they perform such other functions, which in the opinion of the governing council are required for the purpose of effective management and situation. That is also part of the function, what we'll call the federal government and NEMA. Remember, I told you that once I say the federal government, we are referring to NEMA. If I say the state government, you are referring to SEMA. And if I say the local government, which one are we referring to? To Ruth Bannon, if I say local government, which is our agency there that is in charge?
Local Government Emergency Committee, LLEMC.
Good. Local Government Emergency Management Committee. For some other state, the same name, they say Local Government Management Authority. Some other state, they say Local Government Emergency Management Agency. So anything, and further on, we begin to look at this, we'll be asking why. Why is it that they have Local Government Management Committee? Who are members of that? And why is it that everything is being quiet? How is it that they don't pay them or they don't do their job? And we know whether it's 9 grades that has stopped them from operating or is constitute part of the wahala there. We'll be able to know all of that. Then you look at the role of the state government in disaster management. The role of state government in disaster management, this is it. All states of the federation shall ensure the establishment of the body. That body will be known as the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA. It is backed by what we call state legislation. This one is not more national legislation. Again, no, it is state legislation. And that state legislation is handled by the state houses of assembly. And the tenure also differ. For NEMA, the tenure of the Director General of NEMA is 4 years. But for the Executive Secretary of SEMA, what we call ES, in Benue is one James Ondakayopo. Is an elder statesman that is in charge of SEMA in Benue State. And then, in that level, that's their tenure and appointment, in as much as it's under the governor, the tenure is determined by the State House of Assembly. The legislation includes provision of what we call the local government and the state, establishing authorities, similar functions like the federal government. Those functions are replicated at the state level. They shall also establish a state body known as NEMA, and thereafter, what we say, SEMA. And SEMA knows this very well. SEMA is a corporate body with perpetual succession. What do we mean? Amemesu and Bisu in corporate name. They shall also establish the management of SEMA and governing council. Hereinafter rehearsed at the governing council. That governing council of SEMA at the state level, the deputy governor of the state, the deputy governor is the one representing that governor or governor at the state level as a member of the chairman of that council. Then the secretaries to the state government. The secretaries to the state government is a member of that committee with one representative of the following. One representative from the Ministry of Agriculture, because of issues involving any agricultural issues. Sometimes it may be all agricultural activity, empowerment. The State Ministry of Women Affairs, issues of social welfare, issues of violence, issues of harassment, leading to emergency, leading to disasters. Ministry of Health, issues of health and pandemic or other issues like diseases, is a member of that committee for the camp, for the various people involved. The Ministry of Information coordinate all the information, all the electronic media, all the non-print medias, all the digital medias, all the social medias, coordinate everything to make sure, including the radios, including the televisions, that everything is being done. The Ministry of Education may continue to inculcate in their syllabus, in their curriculum, and making sure this is being taught like what we are doing here. And then we look at the State Ministry of Works in the structural design, including the Urban Development Board, making sure that, they have to, from the structure, that structure has to be built very strong, with a strong DPC, with levee, with dike, to prevent what we call building collapse, and making sure a headway is being prepared for them, for people that have disability, carrying along to reduce and mitigate and further ameliorate the disaster issue. We also have the fire services. The fire service at the same time is also one of them. The fire service, you know what their duty very well, just like the Federal Road Safety Corps, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, involving issues of air and all of that, and then what we call the State Ministry of Environment, in terms of drainages, in terms of what we call watered, and then we have the Ministry of Urban Development and Regional Planning. The state, those of these are members of the Governing Council of SEMA at the state level. The Ministry of Justice, issues that involve any of disasters that has to be taken to court. You don't need to pay a dime. They handle that, and they're supposed to take care of that. The Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, of course, you are dealing with BLEMA, the Disaster Response Unit within the state and the geopolitical zone, the Nigerian Police, Federal Road Safety Corps, we mentioned them, Directorate of Road Traffic Services, even the Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers. Make sure that, we prevent issues of what is happened by what we call TOT, the garage TOT or the Agboros, including all of that, the management of emergency. We bring them on board as part of that team. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, from where you have issue of your spirit in other areas, the other NGOs like the Nigerian Red Cross Society and the State Ministry of Finance. All of these are members of what we call the State Emergency Management Agency. The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, or what we call the NIMASA or Costas, and then the Nigeria OSP and Disaster Response Unit, NOSTRA, also a ministry. All these institutions and voluntary organizations are determined from time to time by the councils and to bring it. And at this point, we have our own standard as well. Who do you think should also be included in the management of disaster at the state level? Abito, Stella, Gofan. Who should be included in part of the council or membership of the council, the management of state emergency management agency? That is not listed among those ones that are listed. Yeah, if you want to answer, you can raise up your hand. Abito is on screen. Who wants to answer that? Elizabeth Obonga, do you want to answer? Joseph Odu? Okay, Bashi, your hands is up. Answer that, Bashi.
It's our traditional rulers.
The traditional rulers, we include them at what we call LEMA, at the local government. In the next we'll be discussing. We will include our traditional rulers and then what we call the religious leaders, the imams, the ulamas, the pastors, most of all of that. We are a part of what we did at LEMA, including those involved in veterinary services, the Butchers Association, including meat, the kind of meat you eat, and all of that. We do all of that at them at LEMA. Okay? If there's any person that you want to answer, you will let us know. I can see that, please, what is the question? The question you say you're trained not. The question we ask is who should be involved? Yeah, Nai Grace, your hands is up. You want to say something?
Okay, I think the Ministry of Health.
The Ministry of Health is the Ministry of Health is part of it. We mentioned the Ministry of Health. You look at it.
Okay.
Look at the Ministry of Health.
And also representatives from various local governments.
We mentioned that Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs. Look at it there.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your attempt. That takes us to what we call the membership and the secretary, or what we call SEMA. At the SEMA level, the state government, through carry of the shall be policy, they perform the following function. Just like what we see from NEMA. From what we see in NEMA, it's the same thing that's repeated at the state. They formulate policy at the state, activities related to the management of the state. They coordinate plans and the programs for efficiency, for effective response and disasters in the state. They also coordinate or monitor what we call feedback to NEMA, and then the state preparedness for all the organizations or agencies. They contribute to what we call disaster management within what we do with the state. They collect data and then they report from relevant agencies in as to enhance forecasting, what we do as apart from that, planning and field operation or disaster management, or what they do as supply. And that takes me to what I'll ask my friend now. Let's go back to Doga Jaffet. Doga Jaffet, is it that one of the functions of SEMA, as mentioned, is forecasting and planning on field operation? Is it that SEMA and NEMA, they don't carry out forecast? Or what is it that year in, year out, there's issue of forecasting and then people still has a lot of not complying? When they don't comply, leading to a lot of emergency and disasters. What is actually the issue between forecast and those involved in emergency and then involved in disaster every year, despite the forecasting. What is actually the problem? Dr. Jafet, are you there? Okay. Joseph Odu, can you answer that? Odu, Joseph, what is the problem of forecasting and that of implementation or response? You should tell us the nexus between forecasting and that of the nexus between implementation of victims of emergency and disasters. Yeah, if you want to answer that, please raise up your hand. From the people we call so far, we're not getting response. Bashir, do you want to answer that? Abito, you want to answer that? Ahemin, are you in meeting today or you want to answer us today? We don't want to say that we call you be meeting the meeting. Are you? Ahemin Nongo. Okay. What's actually the nexus or the connectivity between forecasting by NEMA, by SEMA, and the people and victims of emergency and disasters? Bito, can you mute up your speakers? We're hearing your noise from the Bito, Stella, and Gofan. Can you mute up your speakers? We're hearing your noise. Who can answer that? I want somebody to make an attempt on that. Every year out, they will forecast, NEMA will forecast.
Yes, sir. The question again, sir.
What is the problem between the forecasting by NEMA and then SEMA or even LEMA? Why is it difficult for victims of emergency to adhere to the forecasting or to basically comply to the forecasting by NEMA and SEMA, thus at the same time engaging themselves and being destroyed by disasters every year out? What is the problem of victims of emergency with forecasting by NEMA and SEMA? Nai Grace.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity. I think one of the challenge that hinders the adherence to this prediction is some of them, that's their source of livelihood. They make their daily needs from there.
Yes.
And also lack of knowledge. Some of them are not really knowledgeable in terms of this impact, how severe this impact can be to them.
Yes.
And because they make their ends meet from there,
yes,
they have a family to cater for and all that. And the government is not really responsible to their welfare to some large extent. So they might just pay deaf ear and just go on with their activities around that place. And another thing is mindset. Mindset, maybe the person feels nothing will happen, I'll be good. They might just say it and nothing will happen. So it can be as a result of mindset or belief of such persons around that particular place. So economic factor can
economic factors,
which is poverty, can be a result of that. So these are some things that I have to share along that factor.
I think I'll give you 8 over 10. I'll give you A on the answer. Very correct. You just capture it. And I hope others are listening. And then who else also want to make some further contribution on that? Who else also want to make contribution on that? Or want to contribute on what we care in that kind of a situation? Because that has been a very problem. Apart from the economic poverty issues of economic factors like poverty, non-adherence, all of that. Yeah, you still want to say something again?
Yes, sir. And yeah, so sometimes when this forecast is made, government does not really provide an alternative. Maybe for instance, okay, bringing this information to these people, there is going to be so thing that will be happening in this area. And then government is not coming with an intervention. Okay, you will be relocated to so place. And then
Yes.
when the plan is made, the government is supposed
Yes.
to ensure that is executed till the end, ensuring compliance, ensuring the execution. But when the people see that you just won and then they don't have what it takes, you know, to relocate and go to places that they will continue with their economic activities, they might just stay there and just say, whatever happens, it might happen, it might not. But if it happens, there is no challenge. So these are some of the issues also. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I just agree with you in total. And oh, that's interesting with Aroboku's contribution. And I hope others have listened, because what we may ask here, some of these other things, we may just decide to ask practical questions like this. And when you don't have an idea, and when you bag and all of that, so shall we be? The essence is for you to learn and think outside the box, or not just for you to receive handouts. You can just be receiving handouts and be listening and say, I made them do their work, I don't feel they do this one. Oh, in emergency and disaster management, in humanitarian affairs or services, we don't work like that. It doesn't work that way. And it will not work that way at all. So we need to be thinking outside the box to be able to handle issues that can be of that nature. So we need to do that. Then there's also educate the public, and then on disaster prevention, what we need to do is that educate the public on disaster preventions and controversies, measures within the sectors. It's part of what we are doing here, and we're expecting that after this class also, you will do that at your home, you will do it in your offices, you will do that in your communities, you do that where you find yourselves, you coordinate the facilities, the provision of necessary resources for search and rescue operation and other disasters containment activities within the state. These are what we are looking at. We look at what we mobilize support and resources from the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Damage and need assessment are considered the capacity of the state to respond. Read assessment and consider them the capacity of the state to respond. We mobilize support, just like we've been discussing, we've been saying from that. Facilitate the enabling legislation. At a certain level, we don't even have SEMA or NEMA. To be candid, despite signing the treaty, despite signing all of that, the people in authority need is that. They want the whole thing to be secretive. They don't want you to know much about what is happening, their role and all of this. And if you don't know much, just like Naigre say my people perish for lack of knowledge. They don't know the effect of what you don't know, you don't know. But it's essential for you to know and lay the cat out of the bag. They work closely with LEMA for distribution of the materials, the local government emergency management agency to take directive from SEMA, and they work together to be able to assess the situation. If there's any issue that handling in Nigo, in Nasarawa here, they will work with SEMA in Nigo. If it is Karu, they are going to do that. If it is Goma in Benue State, like happens in Yerwata, we have stars of LEMA at that very area, including some local suburb and working in Paripasu from Daudu, from Otesi, from Odei, down to Kadoroku. All of that, the works hands must be on deck, including the volunteers and the vigilante group, and LEMA coordinates and works with that. They also look at issues, performs other function, which in the opinion of SEMA Governing Council, which I told you, they may decide to embark on. Any other issue they may discard and be able to work. There is also what we do. How do we put this one? We say this is the local government disaster management agency. And then the local government disaster management agency put into place a legislation establishing the state management body. And the above body is the local emergency management agency. And the functions of NEMA as included here. Now let me move to who will be able to tell us functions of NEMA. Most of the time, we discover that some people don't know the functions of NEMA. Please, so sometimes we'll be able to, I think some of them don't have a lot of option. Somebody is the route to But now I'm saying most of them, why they do is that they don't have an option. And I think I agree with her. Sometimes the people cannot move because if we move here, we will die. So it's better for us to die here, like the people of Israel. They say even if we are here, we will die. Even if we move ahead, we will also die. So we don't have where to go. Poverty have already taken part of us. Already we don't have 3 square meals to eat. Which one are they telling us all this kind of grammar? Now grammar will go chop up in forecasting. So we have to look at the immediate, the fundamental, and the remote causes. And that is why when we deal with issues of emergency, this issue of humanitarian services, we cannot put empowerment very far. We put a lot of empowerment. By empowerment alone, from the practical experience we have, we are able to solve a lot of situations. Let me go tell you how we were able to deal with some certain situations when we analyze. And what we recommended for, please mute your speakers, please mute your speakers. We recommended in the Northwest region of Nigeria, and it worked. How do we do it? The people's, their morale was down. They were disenchanted, specifically people from Chibok. And so a lot of issues were done for them. And they were demoralized. And they were not able to listen to anything, to feed and all of that. We recommended it should be taken to a camp, food, shelter, provided and everything. And then we move on the economic measures and how to do working with NEMA, SEMA, and LEMA, and how you can be able to integrate. We move some commercial bank, all what we did in the area of digital, get email for them, open bank account for them, they are in the camps. If the others are with critical stakeholders, by the time they got some certain alert, as some part of empowerment, within 2 or 3 days, some of them started dancing, and some of them, even though their eyes were red, and all of that, a lot of started changing, and all of that. So there are a lot of measures you can deploy, including quick measures that can stem the effect, including palliative that can be done. That's for a short term. But when you want to talk about total rehabilitation, reintegration, restructuring, and making sure everything's, you work all together with tree. And that goes back to what I will ask my very good friend now. He will be able to, Dende Amos. Where is Dende Amos? Dende Amos? Okay. Chidima is not speaking today. So Chidima, we read what is on the slide, and then she will explain to us as part of the basic function. Chidima, read the role of local government in disaster management. You read this slide and you comment on that before we proceed. Chidima,
okay. All right, the roles of local government in disaster management. One, LEMA shall be a body, shall be a body corporate with perpetual succession. 2, may sue and be sued in its corporate name. There shall also
be...
give
the meaning of that. Are you explaining the meaning of that? The first statement you made.
Shall be a body.
Go ahead. The first 1 and 2.
Okay, yeah. From my understanding, it's an organized body.
Very good, organized body.
Yes, and it should handle what brings about the success of its organization. That it should ensure that why it is created becomes a possibility and is actualized. It shouldn't just exist as a body without performing its function. I think that's what I understand that number 1.
And be sue in corporate name. What does that mean? You're a layman. If you want to explain at the local government, when they don't do their
it means just the same way an individual goes to court and all of that, they can be taken to court as a body and they can sue.
You can take them to court. And you also, if you don't do some certain thing, they can also take you to court.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So if you're supposed to know this, most time, before Chidima, before you read the other part of it, let me emphasize that most time we begin to ask, oh, what is happening now? What is LEMA doing? They don't know their function. We don't know that it's our right to sue them. We can take them to court, challenge them, and that all those places will be compensated. And when they are doing their function and all of this, including all of we don't know. They don't know also that if we do anything that in danger, that will bring about man-made disaster and emergency, we can also be arrested. That is the implication. Go ahead and complete the reading of the slide.
Okay, the third one is Okay, still the second one, there shall also be established for the management of LEMA a local emergency management committee, hereafter referred to as a committee. The committee shall consist of the vice chairman of the local government council, who shall be the chairman, the secretary to the local government, and department of works. This thought, still a part of the second one, it talks about the people that will be in charge of the management committee, which will comprise of the chairman, the local government council, the secretary to the local government, and then members of the department of works. From what is here, that's what I understand, sir.
Yeah, go ahead with the second
Okay.
slide.
Okay.
You are doing a very wonderful job. You are our lecturer for now, our facilitator.
Okay,
Chidima,
sir. All right, the fourth one is Department of Agriculture. These are the people that are going to be part of the committee. Then the fifth one is Local Government Education Authority, Department of Health, Local Government Traditional Council, Local Government Information Unit, Department of Social Development and Mobilization, Department of Physical Planning, a representative of the Disaster Response Unit responsible for local government, and then the 12th one is the Divisional Police Officer.
Thank you very much. We continue from there with the function. But all that Chidiman, our facilitator and our lecturer for today, in the last 2 minutes, is telling us that the local government has a lot to do. SEMA, or the local LEMA, as be pronounced and called. They are part and parcel on all of this emergency management, or are expected to do their job, including part of what she has not mentioned, the medical director in charge of the local government hospital, where you have general hospital, one representative from the Federal Road Safety Corps, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, the Red Cross Society, the Fire Service, the National Orientation Agency, know it, and voluntary organization that may be determined from time to time, the head of the local government emergency management, the secretary, all of that to coordinate the function, including the traditional rulers, including the religious leaders, are part of that committee and part of all we do. For those of you that can open your WhatsApp, this lectures is already there, have been sent. The slide that we're presenting now is on your WhatsApp platform. It's on WhatsApp platform now. Is there, you can open it and fill yourself and fill. So the local government has a duty to do. We include even the youth, the young men, and then others, just like we talk about community-based organization. They are part of the management of the local government. All these boys brigade, what we call the GB Grace Brigade, the Boy Scouts, and some local organized unit. We talk about part of them, they are involved. In anywhere you go, even if you go to Idoma, you have the Patiki Idoma. In the Chief Kingdom, you have the Mzoti. And when you go down to even the part of, you have the Ulamas. All of them are members of the local emergency management, and they also use traditional knowledge, just like we mentioned yesterday. They use traditional knowledge in the management of emergency. For example, where you have issue like erosion, how is erosion managed in the local or curtailed or prevented in using the local committee? Joseph Odu, you answer that with my friend Doga Japheth. How do the local community use the local mobilization in controlling erosion? And how do they control fire disaster in the local community using LEMA? Using community approach. Mr. Joseph Odu, if Joseph Odu is not there, anybody that knows can raise up his hand to answer that question. The question is, how do the local community use local or traditional community method in controlling emergency disasters like flood, like what we call erosion, what we call even issues of kidnapping, issues of terrorism? How do they use their local or traditional method, including treatment in some other issues of prevention of other diseases in the area?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Doga Japheth, over to you.
Yes. My attempt to the question is,
yes.
First, as we are relating to other needs of mitigating or intervening in disaster, stakeholder, this here, take the stakeholders are involved. So a community-based, a community gathering or meeting or town hall meeting should be held, and people should be intimated of their needs to do
How
things.
so the question is, how do they mitigate apart from the awareness? What are the practical approach or traditional what we call community approach in reducing disasters apart from the awareness and education? They have a lot of those approaches. And method, we call them community-based management of emergency.
Sir,
if you don't know, just tell us you don't know. If you don't know, there are a lot of that. We answer, we know one. Bashi, Lawan, how do the local community or community-based organization use their approach in mitigating and reducing disasters like fire in the villages, like flood, like erosion, like kidnapping, and other best? Which other community approach? Which approach do they use in managing, in reducing or preventing such kind of disaster situation?
Sir, I don't know, sir.
Okay. Yeah, Chidima, you want to say something? We have an answer there, but I want you people to make an attempt.
Sorry, I didn't get the question, sir.
Okay, I'm going to answer the question. In the local villages, what's the community-based organization? The traditional rulers, they use a lot of approaches. They have what is called indigenous knowledge in making sure they answer and control a lot of, yeah, Elizabeth Obonga, you want to say something? That was becoming difficult for everybody, so I wanted to answer. Okay, well, Elizabeth Obonga, go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Elizabeth
Yes,
Obonga,
sir. I only want to make an
make an attempt.
Yes, sir. I want to make an attempt with my little knowledge.
Yes.
I think in reducing some of these emergency disaster management, I think an awareness in our local stations will enable to be reduced, because a lot of folks don't know how to handle a lot of things that are dangerous to us. Like I'm going to use an example like electricity. Some of us in the village not be able to use let me use an instance of an electric burner, hot plate. We may be using it to cook and leave it on and then go to watch television. Probably the food we are cooking is there's no water in the food will get burned, and then before you know, the house is ablaze and stuff like that. So in this case, if we create an awareness on how to use electrical appliances, I think it will reduce such disasters. And creating such awareness, we can use the radio station, we can use like my colleague just said, town hall meetings, we can use SMS, we can use a lot of different mode to communicate to people, most especially the villagers, on how to handle such, just to reduce disasters. That's my little contribution, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. In the local community, when we talk about all that you say about communications, we're talking about awareness and education, we talk about practical approach in local communities, that they use some of this. Number one is what we call cleanliness. Cleanliness, they say, is next to what? Godliness. Where in the local community you have bushes, you have a lot of balls of the practical approach they use in their home, and to make sure, including is that you have cleanliness. We have what is called local community water and sanitation. They clean their environment, maybe on Sunday, on Saturday, make sure all of that. All we need all is done is that we have a hygienic environment, preventing even the breakdown of some certain epidemics. They also use some pharmaceutical herbs using indigenous knowledge. Issues like Azarata indica. We talk about the use of Azarata indica. We are talking about the use of what is popularly known to you as dogon When dogon is used to control and prevent a lot of other mouths would have ordinary would have happened. Emergency like diarrhea, emergencies of some certain issue, but those that will have like purgative situation. Then in terms of erosion, the local community approach and bridges. They use what is known as ridges. Ridges are built across such area where you have erosion. When they come high with high ribs in terms of bumps and control. They also use what we call hand sand file. They fill sand in bags. Sand in bags are used and put where you have bridges or construction and all of that. You can be able to cross ordinary where a stream has broken down. Now there would have emergency, there would be no way. They feed their sand, create a path, putting all of that to control. In terms of conflict resolution, they organize issues like novelty match. What novelty match? Another conflicting group with another one, they come, they say group A and group B, they meet, they play football, they shake hands together, drink together, and be able to use what we call alternative dispute resolution mechanism. An alternative dispute resolution mechanism, from there they are able to monitor, to provide feedback and the status of preparedness of organization, which may contribute to disaster management at the local level. So when we talk about lots of practical approaches, these are the kind of things we're referring to. They collect data just like the SEMA. Remember, they are the brainchild of SEMA. So they work with them. They make sure that, everything that has to do with disaster risks in areas in their respective law, government, and they share with SEMA information. All the information that you're talking about here is being passed from LEMA to SEMA to make sure that everything is in order and to mobilize support and resources from the emergency agency and SEMA when damages or need assessments are considered beyond the capacity of the state. Most of them, or the local government, they report to the state is something that they can handle within themselves with the immediate and available few resources. They are able to do that. They work in conjunction with the National Orientation Agency, explaining a lot of things, using the term criers, just like we're saying, and stating the value, the repercussions, the consequences associated of not being able to adhering to instructions, forecastings, and some basic issues. Remember, they have their opinion leaders. They have what we call the laggards, and those that believe in them. By doing so, they make sure that all of that is established, the capacity community structures. Then we talk about the tenure and remuneration and condition of disaster management. The head of NEMA will have what we call office for the first times, and this for the 4 years. For NEMA, we call them the DG. So by the time we are asking, so he's in charge of NEMA, you should be able to know that by now, studying this course, the Director General of NEMA is on the head of NEMA in Nigeria, and the office is for 4 years. And NEMA is an agency under Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disasters Management. Just like SEMA, their tenure is determined by the state. We keep repeating that, determined by the State House of Assembly, and they are under Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management as well. The tenure and the condition differs and all of that. Then we go to communities in disasters management. The community in disasters management, if you're asked to write short notes on community in disaster management, you should be talking about the community structures, the neighborhood association, the school, the community-based organization, the faith-based organization, the non-governmental organization that establish properly, they sensitize, they mobilize, and not just mobilizing, they empower to actively participate in disaster management by LEMA with the support of SEMA and LEMA. So most of the issues that is involved, sometimes you don't necessarily meet in real, but the communities that are involved in emergency and disaster management, with what is expected of them, with the value of human being, and lots of peoples that are indigenous or aboriginal people, we know that can be able to solve a lot, combining with the faith-based organization. That's where you have churches, where you have mosques, where you have all other, the HXs, you have the Buddhists, and you have the pagans. There are some that they don't go to church, they don't go to mosques, they belong to where they belong. They are what they are. You need to mobilize and empower, working to ensure a robust true economy. At this very point, I will hold on and give rooms for contribution, for comments, for questions, before we come to the end of the first section today. When we resume, we will start complete the section 2 and do revision within 1 hour, and that will be the end of Solomon Gandhi. So for now, we'll go back to the class, ask if there is comment, if there's a contribution, if there's questions, you feel to ask, and we will start with Chidima Ologala. Chidima Ologala, please, we'll start with you for your comment.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. I would just like to make a contribution, especially in disaster management. Just this last slide. One of the importance of community-based organizations is to interface with the communities, their leaders directly, and know exactly how to mitigate issues. Because people at the top, people outside that state really don't know what is happening within that community. So now, community-based organizations are there to mitigate those issues, interface closely with the indigenes, and ensure that the need of those communities are really considered. That's why need assessment is carried out, so that you know what these people want. And these community-based organizations don't just exist because NGOs needs to be founded, or NGOs need to grow or something. No, they are there because they serve a purpose, and their purpose is interfacing directly with the communities that are affected. Then the faith-based organizations, most times we see churches doing one or two things. Let's take for instance the water crisis, and then interventions that came from churches. Now, churches exist not just because they, apart from serving the spiritual and the moral purpose of humans and the need for people to be committed to a group, they exist because they give back to the society, and in their little ways they carry out interventions, charity-based charity work. And that is why in most cases they give out things, and they don't receive funding from any organization like community-based organizations. They do it directly from revenues generated over time, and seeing how they can give back to the people and see that people are better off. Things change by providing the things they can in their little way. So that's just what I want to say, especially in respect to those two organizations. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, on community disaster management, Chidima Ologalo, I will just say excellent. And if I'm to score you, I'll just score you 9/10 for giving us a practical aspect. That is what we need to need there. Thank you very much for making that robust, very educating, very informative, very incisive, and what we do in emergency community development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Rooms for elders. If there's any questions, please, you want to say something, raise up your hand. You want to make your comments, feel free. In emergency, social standard and emergency and humanitarian services, we are most happy when we receive a lot of questions. You give us a lot of questions, we'll be glad. Just bombard from left to right, and that is our duty. We do it headlong in the morning, and in the afternoon, in the evening. And Elizabeth Obonga, over to you.
Hello, sir. When you were talking about the visit of the First Lady to Benue State today, that was when I joined the class. And truly, I was there briefly yesterday. And the question I was asking the people that were there was, what was her visit for? And just told us in the class that her visit was for emergency. I didn't comprehend, and the question I want to ask is, sir, if the visit of the First Lady to is for emergency, I want to ask that when, even though somehow I know that my question I can equally answer it, but I just want to ask, when should a visit of the presidency or the First Lady come to where something happened? Why should the visit be this prolonged? Because this incident took place over a month ago, and the First Lady is just coming. So I just want to know, how prompt to, or should such visit be done?
I remember so Elizabeth, we talk about 24 to 48 hours. Now, let me answer you before I'll give other part of the class. I'll just make a comment that's very small to remind you. I know you know this thing, but you also want us to learn before we go. Now, get it in a very clear and in the crystal term. There's nothing like office of the First Lady in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The office of the First Lady is illegal. It is null and void. In the eye of the law, there's nothing like office of the First Lady. The law does not recognize it. The Constitution of Nigeria does not recognize it. So if we were talking, basically, it was best that it's based on empathy. It's based that because of African traditions. It's based on customary law that she may decide to. We may have to the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You know that every time I'm talking about you as governors, talking about president, you recall, intentionally, I have not mentioned you being First Lady or First Lady. So First Lady, there's nothing like that office. It's not a constitutional office. It's just whatever you see there, including the paraphernalia or any amount that is involved, it is illegal and it cannot be sued or sued to in a way. It is just an appendage. It's like, it's not even a spare tire. It's just part of a take me home tire of a car. So it's not official office to be cautious when it comes to all of that. But as part of the tradition in Africa, our women, our mothers, and all of that, they have empathy. Even if you are not in government, remember disasters is every business. But if you are to respond within 24 hours, it should be a good-spirited individual. And as such, in as much as it has taken a long time, I think the question you should also be asking is that whether will that money be given, whether it will either be released. Because in 2023, for most of you that are aware, the vice president, in official capacity, pronounced that the federal government of Nigeria, that vice president was Vice President Yemi Osibajo, that we're going to give about 10 billion for the victims for the same purpose like this. Out till now that we are talking about, I don't know, a dime has not been given, except if they decide that, oh, Elizabeth has collected part of the money and is she don't hammer and is hiding away from us and enjoying at the expense of what we call those involved victims of emergency and disasters. For now, I throw your caution. It is in our character and behavior to allow members of the class to make input before I'll come to it again. Yeah, so who wants to answer the question by Elizabeth Bonga about the timing? Jafet Doga is there. Nai Grace is there. Nguemo Patricia Akbusu is there. I want to hear your opinion and all of that. Joseph Odu is also there. Abiton Gofan. Ahemi Nongo, who wants to answer all this question? Somebody should have comments on that before I finalize and give you feedback again.
So I didn't get the question.
If I'm to score for asking that question, please, I'll score you 7 or 8 over 10. And it's for me, just like I'm telling you, before I give you marks, you must aim it. You must be able to work towards it. And because of what you say is I'm impressed with that question. These are the kind of questions we want. We are waiting for that question to be answered.
Sir, I didn't get the question, sir.
She asked? You didn't get the question she asked? Oh,
yes,
that is
sir.
serious.
My network
that is serious. She's asking that why did it take the First Lady a long time? Why did she come? And why did it take her so long before to visit victims of emergency and disasters in Benue?
Okay, sir. I think one of the reasons I want to be truthful to it is as a result of public awareness, both locally and internationally, in regards to what has happened in that particular state. And this was made known by, you know, content creators and several media houses, how it was largely reported. And it actually got everybody, it actually got everybody's attention, people's emotion, both within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So looking at it, it brought a lot of questions. People started asking questions and all that. And so as a result of that, I know it's stir up. She might be representing maybe the government, but of course, because there's no an office created that is called the Office of the First Lady, if she goes there to like execute stuff like this, at least it will reduce the eye that the citizen, you know, the eye they look at our political leaders, like, because most time we feel they are insensitive at the federal level and at the state level. So I think it's just to like reduce the tension, the agitation, because people are agitating, like people are asking for good governance, people are speaking up. So I think with this, even though it will not bring back life, but it's going to reduce the, should I use, I'm careful about the word to use, but maybe the attack on the government of the day. So that's what I feel, because I know that a lot of crises like this has been happening. It has been happening, and then people don't get to know the exact thing that is happening there. But because there was a lot of information, videos, pictures, so people were able to see like firsthand information of what was really happening there. So it wasn't covered, because usually once these things are covered, people go about their normal business. But now people have been asking for the accountability of the people that we have elected. You know, where is their empathy? You know, so a lot of these things have stirred up this move of the First Lady in taking the step that she has taken. That's from my own point of view. And
okay, thank you very much. Thank you. And that is where, if there's any other contribution, any other questions before we go to an end? Any contributions for that questioning? Yeah, Obonga, your hands is up. Elizabeth Obonga, your hands is still up.
No, sir.
Hello, sir.
My
Okay.
hand is down, but from what Grace said, I understood what Grace has said, has spoken. Because when I asked this question yesterday, a lot of answers were coming in, but then I answered myself right there. If before I left there, someone collected my number and said she was going to call me. So I said, just to add to what Grace said, I said it could be to can I say, close the mouth of the masses against the 2027 election that is coming. So she just have to come just to let people know that the government of the day
you may not be
are
far from
showing concern.
That is what we call the politics of emergency. Politics of emergency and disaster or humanitarian affairs is also involved. You are aware. And we also know that you know the answer, but you want us to brainstorm on that. Any other question you want to talk, you raise up your hand, you make your comments and contribution before we go for break. When we are back from the break, we do little part and revision of how our exams is going to be like, and then close for the day. Any other further question? From the silence all over, it means there is no question. So we will go for break. When we are back, we will do a little few minutes and then revision. and how the whole team will be like. And for now, bye-bye until when we resume together by 1. And God bless you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.